I would encourage you not to think of memories as either a complete record of the past or as being false and completely imagined or made up. Instead, I like to think of memories not like a photograph, which is something that is a veridical representation of the world, but something that's more like a painting. So, for instance, on the right here, I'm showing you a photograph of a particular church. And on the left, I'm showing you a painting that was produced by Van Gogh. And I think you can appreciate that the artist who did this painting did not try to capture all of the elements of this church perfectly. There are many elements of the church that are preserved in his painting. For instance, this clock, or many of the windows, and the rough shape of the rooftop. But at the same time, there are many parts of the painting that are actually distorted and warped. But they're distorted in a way that reflects the painter's perspective, the painter's feelings, the painting's belief. And that is how memories are too. They're constructed based on a bit of reality, a bit of the stuff that we infer based on our beliefs, and things that are neither true or false, but they really reflect our way of looking at the world. And this is why people often will tell me, well, how is it that I remember things completely different from my wife, or my brother or sister remembers my childhood in such a different way than I do? And part of it is that we might remember some of the same details, but we put them together in different stories based on our own perspectives. Another question I get asked a lot is why memory gets worse as we get older. And this is something that I've been asked especially often because in our own presidential race, we're seeing the two leading candidates are setting records as being the oldest on record in any previous presidential election. And so I was recently asked to comment on the controversy over whether President Joe Biden in the United States, for instance, might have memory problems. And based on my analysis of all the evidence that people were putting out, I said, I can't tell for sure, but I think people are talking about Biden's memory in the wrong way. And I think people have many different kinds of misconceptions about memory. And so I want to take a moment to just address some of these misconceptions. So in my editorial in the New York Times, one of the things I pointed out is that colloquially, we use the word forgetting in a number of different ways. And so we can think of forgetting in a very minor way that I put in lowercase letters, and we can think of forgetting in a big way that I put in capital letters. And what I mean by this is, as we get older, we have a lot of forgetting in the minor sense. This is where we can't find the information we need when we need it. So for instance, you might have all had the experience of having trouble pulling up the name of somebody, and yet you know their name. You know that memory is in there somewhere, but you can't pull it up when you need it. This is something that happens increasingly as we get older. In fact, those changes start to happen even from the age of 30. And so what that means is that we lose this ability to find what we're looking for, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not forming memories in the first place. And that's what I would call forgetting in the most extreme sense, or where I'm using capital letters of forgetting. Those are instances where you have no memory that an event took place at all. And so often we should really tell the difference between points where we didn't forget, but rather we misplaced the memory that we needed when we needed it. But I hope the biggest message that you take away from this talk is that memory is not about the past. The past is only there in our brains to allow us to make sense of the present and to really maximize our ability to survive and thrive in the future. And I would really encourage you to think about that role of memory in your present and your future and use it judiciously. To think about how memory factors into your understanding of what's going on in the moment. To think about your way in which memory is affecting your emotional state right now. It's affecting the way that you're interacting with others, your judgments of other people. And think about its role in the future, how memory might be affecting your decisions about things that you might do later on, how memory might be influencing your predictions and plans, how memory might shape the way that you think about different decisions and how those different decisions could play out in the future. Because if we're aware of the way memory works, we can use it in a mindful way, and we can use it to improve our mood. We can use it to improve our relationships. We can use it to improve our decisions. But if we're not aware, we can actually have problems because memory can creep in to those decisions and to those beliefs anyway. So memory should be a resource that we can draw upon, but you don't want memory to be in the driver's seat.